am that man, your man, the illustrious tour guide, Cole Johnson. And on this episode, we're going to, of course, talk about the curious case of Lamar Jackson. We're going to go in on the NCAA tournament. Of course, we'll have the Dolt of the Week. And, of course, we'll have a throwback segment that we call From the Vault. But for right now, let's get to the headlines. So, Carolina Panthers, you are now on the clock as of now until April 26th. That is now because the Panthers traded with the Bears, who then, before this trade, had the number one overall. And with it, the Bears received the first round pick back, or I should say not number one, but first round draft pick, which is valued now at number 9. They have a second round draft pick. I think that would be the 61st overall. They have a first round pick from next year and a third round pick for 2 years later in 2025. And then they have wide receiver DJ Moore. I can go in on what I think about that, but I won't. The Panthers are looking to still find the guy that has been at the helm at quarterback, and they've had trouble trying to find someone ever since Cam Newton has gone on his downward trajectory. Last year, it was Sam Darnold, and then after that, it was PJ Walker and many others after that too. So the Panthers are looking to get their guy, their franchise guy at quarterback. Or are they? That is, of course, for another time and for another situation. But for now, the Panthers are on the clock. Now, to the hardwood. And Kevin Durant, who looked cold. He looked great. And in the warm-ups last week, in what seemed to be the anticipated season home debut for the Phoenix Suns, Kevin Durant took a twist. And I do mean a nasty, mighty twist. So the Footprint Center probably will not see Kevin Durant play home games there, maybe until the playoffs. Now, they announced this past weekend that Durant sustained a left ankle sprain when he slipped during pregame warmups last Wednesday while driving toward the bucket. Now, he'll be reevaluated toward the end of the month. And they're crossing their fingers. They hope that he can return to the court as soon as March 31st. But come on, Suns. It would not be prudent to put him on the court then when you might have a re-aggravate something and then he will miss the whole playoffs. Let him come back in the playoffs and then let him work his way back. Because when he does come back, or slated to come back March 31st, that's 6 games left. No, just hold him out to the playoffs. You don't really need him now. You need him later. Back to the gridiron, and it looks like we're having movement already before the NFL New Year begins. The reason why it's called the NFL New Year is because free agent signings pop normally around mid-March. So tomorrow is the day when all of the trades that we've been hearing that has taken place will be finalized and official. One of those will be former 49ers quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo, who I said former. Now he is set to rejoin head coach of the Raiders, Josh McDaniels, as a Las Vegas Raider. I said he joined because Garoppolo was, of course, in the quarterback room where Josh McDaniels was the offensive coordinator of it for the New England Patriots when Garoppolo was early on cutting his teeth in the NFL. Now, the contract is for 3 years, $67.5 million. 34 million of that will be guaranteed. And, of course, Garoppolo will be replacing outgoing quarterback who now is in the Saints, Derek Carr. Now, Carr signed with the team last week, and now here it is 1 week later, and they found their man. Now, besides Devontae Adams, who else are they going to throw it to? I will talk about that a little later. But the 49ers were not done. They they decided to let Garoppolo go, but they decided to sign former USC alum and former Carolina Panthers Sam Darnold. Now, of course, he is a California native, and he will be joining the 49ers on a one-year deal. The terms of it has not really been disclosed. Now, the 25-year-old will join a quarterback room that already has Trey Lance and Brock Purdy in it. Now, it's probably made a little easier because Purdy, of course, injured his wing during the NFC Championship game in the first possession of it that the 49ers had when Hassan Reddick had a sack strip fumble. And finally, the swelling of his elbow went down enough to where surgery was placed on it earlier this month. And he's due to be out 6 months, which I will put him to around the time the NFL regular season begins. Now, what does that mean for Darnold? Well, it means that he will also be up for quarterback competition. I don't think that he's going to be a slam dunk number one starter. Why would he be? He has not really proven much as a Jet, nor as a Panther. He's a scout, and I believe he's a stopgap measure. And I've heard that from my partner, who is a 49ers aficionado and analyst, Brian Snow. He's a stopgap measure for Brock Purdy, and he basically will be the one to groove the wheels as to making that transition from how it has been to how it will be now. Now, still staying with the gridiron, but not dealing with matters on the field, dealing with matters off of it, and also dealing with matters of a Pro Football Hall of Famer. Michael Irvin, for the second time in less than a week, and his attorney held a press conference to provide an update on the ongoing dispute with Marriott in Arizona over the details of the interaction between him and a female hotel staffer. Now, his attorney and Irvin also announced yesterday that they have filed the case to be dismissed without prejudice in Texas, but they refiled in Arizona. Now, the new case filed in Arizona Supreme Court. It lists 6 defendants, including the accuser. She's referred to as Miss Doe, and 3 other hotel employees. The other defendants are Marriott International and Renaissance Hotel Operating Company employees. Now, I will say this: for Mike to defend it so hard, it makes me think that there is smoke to this. Not talking about smoke to him, I'm talking about smoke to the other end. He has maintained that it basically was a harmless 45-second meeting between a person who thought it was a fan, and nothing egregious, nothing out of the ordinary, and nothing out of place happened. So I don't think things are tawdry or as risque or as or as bad as I think people were led to believe or we were led to assume. So yes, keep fighting, Mike. I hope everything works out for you, bro. We miss you on TV. You need to be back on the NFL Network and ESPN. And yes, I said it. You do, sir. Now, there's a lot of things to be excited for. But in the case of the Clippers owner, Steve Ballmer, he's a little too excited about one aspect of the new arena that is due to open for the 2025 season. Okay, so get this. So there's going to be a new arena, and I think it's going to be in Inglewood. It's called the Intuit Dome, and it has state-of-the-art just about everything. State-of-the-art Halo video board, similar to what we see with the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. Increased leg room, uninterrupted wall of 4,700 seats behind the opponent's bench. But all those features pale in comparison to this one by the owner. What feature excites him of the new stadium to be? I'm so glad you asked. He said, quote, toilets. 1,160 toilets and urinals, 3 times the NBA average. We don't want people waiting in line. We want them to get to their doggone seats. Close quote.
Come on!
Unfortunately, the way the Clippers season has gone thus far, you better hope and pray, Mr. Ballmer, that the toilets at the Crypto.com arena doesn't flush you and your team down the toilet in 2023, meaning that you won't be able to play in the Intuit Dome come 2025. And that concludes this week's headlines. A break, and after we step aside for the cause, we'll come back and talk about Lamar Jackson and perspective. I think that is something many don't have. For whatever reason, I have no idea. You're watching and you're listening to and you're tuned into Cole Sports. We'll be right back right after this.
I want to do a TED Talk, but I don't have anything to talk about yet. I'm getting there.
Life is for the living. We're not here that long.
You can learn anything you want to learn without any money spent.
What do I really enjoy? What do I really want out of life?
I am your host, WIZE.
Are you in a life holding pattern? Well, this is for you. Welcome to the Stuck in My Mind podcast. This is a BS3 Network presentation.
I want to show that attainability. I want to show the accessibility of this kind of lifestyle.
From social media to having conversations with friends and family, you always have to put on face and save face.
What brings a smile to my face is the one person that totally believes in me, and that's my beautiful wife, Jody.
I just had to stop because I didn't value myself. I didn't love myself. And it's like, I have to learn to love myself.
Changing the world one conversation at a time. This is Revelations. Welcome back, Cole Johnson, Cole Sports, and we have to get perspective here somehow. Well, before we go there, we're going to go to the VIP zone, and we're going to make this an incentive-laden portion of the show because whatever comment that I've read that just stands out, it's going to become, if you're watching on YouTube, is going to become a chapter of its own. Your quote will be a chapter of its own. So we will visit the VIP zone momentarily, and we will do this at intermittent portions of the show starting right now. And of course, we're talking to our first guy, Victor Locke, or VLock83 on the YouTubes. He says, "Good afternoon and welcome to the classiest sports show on the planet. Welcome to Cole Sports with a Z. And now stand up and show your love, Steve Harvey style, for the star of Cole Sports, Cole Johnson." Well, thank you, Ed McMahon, of AKA Victor Locke. I appreciate it. To the Michael Irvin portion of the headlines, he says, Playmaker's about to own a Marriott. I think he's about to own a few of them, brother. And I hope he does, seriously, because the way they've been dragging their feet about trying to get footage out to the public and try to clear his name and make him not be culpable for stuff. Yeah, he should be owning some stuff from Marriott. Sup, Cole, from the owner, the manipulator, the operator of the BS3 Network, Ben Southern III. As you will see, this program, it is, and it comes on every Friday, 2 p.m. on the Central side, 3 p.m. on the Eastern side, every Friday. He says, I didn't see anything wrong in the Marriott tape. Same. I didn't either. So I feel for Marriott because they're going to be coughing up a lot of dough because the settlement is on. That's how I believe it. Ryan McCarthy, no credentials required fame. He says it's time for Cole Sports with the Z. Of course, Victor Love, peace out to BS3. Ben says Ballmer has the most energy out of any NBA owner. I love his energy. I do. I think it's infectious, and I think he's a breath of fresh air from that aspect of sports, let alone the NBA. Victor says, look, again, at least we'll know they'll have the toilets to store the crap they produce on the court. Oh, my poor Steve. And I love Steve. I love him. I think he's great for the sport. He's great for the NBA. But getting excited for urinals and toilets. Come on, bro. Anyway, so I had a conversation this past weekend with someone who wholeheartedly believes, within his gut, believes that the Lamar Jackson and not being signed problem is because of color. He's right, but the color he has is wrong. What do I mean? Well, I'll explain it like this. Email modern NFL fan. CC woke NFL fan. Subject of email. Wrong color. Body of email. Okay. Lamar Jackson, he's black. Yes, I know. Lamar Jackson's won the MVP. He won in 2019. Yes, I know. Lamar Jackson, he actually gained over 1,000 yards more than once in a single season rushing. I understand all of that. I understand that also Lamar Jackson is one of the most dynamic presence. Forget quarterbacks, just football player in presence that we have ever seen. The guy, if you give him just a little bit of a crease, he could take it to the house from any length of the field. He has speed. He has agility. He does have an arm. He can read defenses. He actually is a really good quarterback. Now, do I think that he is all the way elite? Not yet. And I don't really put that at his feet all the way. I put it at the feet of one Greg Roman, and I don't have to do that anymore because Roman and the Ravens parted ways. No, the dude got fired, but it just sounds nicer when they say a coach and a team parted ways. But I'll ask this question again. Did Greg Roman and the Ravens part ways? Survey said no, dude got fired. But that's a good thing because if they do, I'm talking about the Ravens, and they do plan on keeping Lamar Jackson, all they got to do is get a brighter offensive coordinator mind to force Jackson to learn how to play the quarterback position for all of what it can provide. Now, you're probably saying to yourself, wait a minute, Cole, he actually does that now. I will bring to you this. Since that 2019 season where Lamar Jackson won the MVP, the numbers of the Ravens offense, 2020 to 2021 to 2022, it declined in each of those 3 years. In the following 3 years, the offense got worse. And if you don't believe me, Google it. The offense of the Ravens got worse. They were a number one ranked rushing offense in 2019. It got worse, and progressively so with each passing year. And yes, I can also throw in Lamar Jackson has missed the last 5 games of the 2021 season and the last 5 games and the playoff game they qualified for in the 2022 season. So does that mean that he can't be signed, does it mean that he does it mean that he shouldn't get a contract? Does it mean that the Ravens should give up on him? I'm not saying any of those things. What I am saying is you have a guy who does not have representation, who believes he can represent himself. And I'm not saying he can't, because there are a few who have represented themselves and they've gotten some contracts. They've gotten some really good contracts. For example, you had Roquan Smith, who is a teammate of Lamar's, who negotiated his own contract. You have Bobby Wagner. He negotiated for his contract. You had Richard Sherman, who negotiated for his. You had DeAndre Hopkins, who negotiated for his. So it's not as uncommon of a thing. But I really believe in this regard, it would help Lamar more, because I think he has missed out on money already, and he's bound to miss out on more even later. And that is unfair of him. Not saying of Lamar, it's unfair to him, I should say. It's unfair to him that I think he's getting bad advice, that he's missing out on the value that he can provide any team and the value he can provide to himself. Now, because he is not signed and that he is, quote, a restricted free agent, close quote, that is wrong. He is not a restricted free agent. He is under restricted free agent rules, but he is under a non-exclusive franchise tag. There is a difference. Because if he was a restricted free agent, it would mean if a team signs him, the Ravens could match him. They can match that offer sheet, and if it matches it, forget it. Nothing else is done. Now, if the team were to sign away Lamar, if he was a restricted free agent, the team that is basically just said, okay, you're a restricted free agent, and they decide that they can't match it, they would not get anything for him. That's the difference. Because in a non-exclusive franchise tag, that same scenario can happen, but the team that signs Lamar has to unearth and cough up 2 first-round draft picks. That's the difference. So a lot of people are looking at this as this is a shame. A black quarterback, he's in his prime, and he's being overlooked. Now, I want to mention any white quarterback that's happened to in his prime, and I will shut up about this. I'm waiting.
You've got to be joking me.
But you don't have to wait longer. I introduced to you Kurt Warner. Yes, the 1999 NFL Most Valuable Player, the Super Bowl MVP of that year, and the 2001 NFL Most Valuable Player. And in 1999, he was 28. In 2001, he was 30. He was on that team, the Rams, the St. Louis Rams, until the end of the 2003 season when he got released. So Mr. Warner was born in June of 1971. So he got his first MVP at 28. He got his second MVP at 30. He got released at 32. You can ask any person in the know. An athletic prime is between the ages of 26 and 33, give or take a year. So I mentioned that he was released at age 32. That means that Mr. Kurt Warner was in his prime. So here's a white quarterback, which it doesn't matter to me. Here is a white quarterback with greater credentials and greater accomplishments that Lamar Jackson has ever amassed thus far in his career, and he got outright released. He didn't get a franchise tag that was thrown on him like Lamar did. They just simply outright released Warner. Now, when I mentioned this to my brother, he basically wanted to be in his feelings because he wanted to say, well, it's not a 25-year-old. It doesn't matter. The point of it is a commodity that they are thinking of him in dollars and cents and not thinking of him as he's black. Because let me see if I can remember. Oh, yeah, the backup quarterback, Andrew Huntley, black. So it's not that the Ravens have this affinity or proclivity to say, oh, no, blacks cannot be at the helm at quarterback. No. This is not a black or white thing. This is a green thing. Have you forgotten? Not a year ago. Not a year ago, 2 weeks after Deshaun Watson signed that ridiculous $230 million, all of the money guaranteed contract with the Haslams in Cleveland, that Steve Bisciotti, the owner of the Ravens, said, quote, I think it's going to be really difficult for us to negotiate a contract with a quarterback with the Deshaun Watson deal looming in the background. Close quote. The Ravens owner said that when they were in owners' meetings out in the West Coast, I think it was in Palm Springs, latter part of March of last year. Now, we're in the middle part of March this year. So he's had to negotiate with his quarterback for a year. Look how far they've gotten. They got to the point where it's like, okay, we'll throw a non-exclusive franchise tag on you. That's how far they've gotten in a year's time. Now, the question is, can they match it? I hope they can, and I hope they do. Because, yes, Lamar Jackson deserves his money. Now, we can talk about how the deal is gone, what the deal entails, all of that. The thing is, it is skewered. It is irresponsible, and it is injurious to think that this is about white or black. No, it's about green. These owners only care about if this player can move the needle, and if he can move the needle and not bankrupt us at the same time. The quarterback contracts, if he were to have the exclusive tag on him, he would have pocketed in this past year coming $45 million. Yeah, because it's the average of the top 5 quarterbacks. So he doesn't have that. He has the non-exclusive one. So right now, he would, if everything were to play out and no deal would be made from any team, he would get paid $32 million over the course of 2023. Now, yes, that's the most he will have ever made in NFL in any given year. $23 million is the total that he made last year. So yes, he would have made more than the year previous. However, he's looking at the product and he's seeing many of the QBs, many who have not achieved the same things Lamar has achieved, and they're getting more than he is. He can look at Russell Wilson, who had a poor year. $256 million contract with $165 million guaranteed. He can look at Kyler Murray, a guy who he wet the bed in the playoffs in 2021, and he wanted to argue with Cliff Kingsbury, the now former head coach of the Cardinals, on the sideline last year, and showed his immaturity at intermittent parts in both years, and he got a $189 million guaranteed contract. Now, the reports are that the Ravens only offered a $133 million guaranteed contract with a $290 million tag on it, and Lamar said no. But I will still maintain that I really believe that he said that he wanted to have a Deshaun Watson-like guaranteed. Maybe not all of the contract to be guaranteed, but most of it. Get in that neighborhood. basically have a deal like maybe like $200 million guaranteed, and the contract's like 250, 260, 270 million. I think if the Ravens were to bring that to the table, or any other team were to bring that to the table to Lamar Jackson, he'd probably take it. But what I'm seeing is I believe the Ravens haven't brought that to him, and it looks like no other team has brought that to him either. And it's not because of him. It's not because Lamar's a bad apple or a bad actor. He's not. He's one of the cleanest whistles that we have in pro football today. So it's not even that. It's not that he's black. Heck no. You got many of these owners drooling over him. So it's not even the fact that it's okay, it's a black QB. No. It's these other 31 teams. It's can I sign this guy and I get 1/5 of my salary cap for the year gobbled up with this one player, and I give up not one but 2 first-round draft picks. To me, since I said that it's all about the green for these owners, the answer to that question is so before you want to rush to say this is collusion and this is black, here is what it has to look like. How about being a quarterback from Washington and he wows people in the Rose Bowl? And I mean, he threw touchdown to touchdown in the Rose Bowl, looked absolutely awesome. But every team in an NFL coming up in the spring said that he should play cornerback and he won't play quarterback. And that he had to go to another league to prove himself. And he did so in the intervening 6 years, winning 5 of that game's championships. The quarterback I'm talking about is Warren Moon. At Washington, he wowed people in the Rose Bowl. But everybody named Mama at the time in 1978 wanted to make him a cornerback. So he's like, no, I believe myself in a quarterback. I'm going to play in a professional league where I can do that. So he went to the CFL, the Edmonton Eskimos. He won 5 straight Grey Cups, the highest achievement you can make in the CFL, 5 straight, before he came to the NFL in 1984, 28 years of age, to finally play quarterback in the NFL. That is collusion. That is because you're black, you can't play. Not what's happening to Lamar Jackson. That isn't racism. It has to make monetary sense. Huge difference. It's unfortunate that we still have to play the color card, and you're doing so irresponsibly. Oh, Johnson. Oh, sport. You're listening to the classiest sports show on the planet. Go Sports! From the vault, a look back at a key moment in sports history. March 15th, 1988. Now, the look of despair on the owner of the St. Louis Cardinals, Bill Bidwell's face that afternoon suggested that this wasn't a triumphant day. But the NFL, at this date, overwhelmingly voted to allow his Cardinals to move out to the desert. Of the then 28 NFL teams gathered for those meetings at the time, 26 voted in favor of them, and only the Raiders and the Dolphins abstained. So, no nays. Now, while the owners were for the most part preoccupied with the Cardinals, the management council said that the no trade clause on other things would have been met. So even though they tried to deal with other business, what was primarily in the focus of all of those in the meetings they had was the torn owner of the Cardinals getting the vote to move his team. Now, he seemed to be torn after being there for being in St. Louis for 28 years, but he said that he was mixed up and it was emotional and that he didn't think that he wanted to go through this again. And he just simply wanted to have a stadium that seated 70,000 people. And he felt as though he wasn't getting it there. And for the tenure that he was there with the Cardinals in Phoenix, he didn't get it then either. It took new ownership for that dream to happen. Bill Bidwell feels bittersweet about his team moving from the gateway to the desert on this date in 1988.
From the vault, brought to you by Cole Sports. This is a journey into crime. A podcast journey that tells the stories of those long forgotten or those easy to remember. We go on a journey that reveals mystery, intrigue, and offers more twists and turns than a country highway. We have looked over cases, we've combed over evidence and testimony, yet we still are left with no answers. Sometimes, in order to get a deeper understanding of something, you must return to view. Now available for download for subscribers only. Each episode premieres only on the USA Today Network. Join now for just $1 to receive premium content like Return to View. That's $1 to become a subscriber and a Return to View loyal listener. Alicia.
You can't hold somebody to that standard if you haven't voiced what you want and what you're needing from that.
Mika.
If you're not communicating expectations, you're waiting for your feelings to be hurt.
Nicole.
Yeah. A lot of people don't want to take the time out to be alone and to get themselves together.
Ivan.
You got to be willing to work through stuff. And from the jump street, y'all done had problems. Maybe you don't need to be working through those.
BS3 Network proudly presents Queen 3 and King podcast. Live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central.
Welcome back to Cole Sports. Cole Johnson here. Back to the VIP zone we go. Vlog basically saying about Mr. Lamar Jackson. He says they gave the Vince McMahon treatment. You're fired. And also he agreed with me when I put the Billy Kay on there. You got to be joking me. Of course, he's what's referring to. He also said that Kyler Murray was accusing the other team of hacking. Derek Hill, respected voice. He says, look at my man, Cole. Hope it's all is well with you. Everything is well with me, my man. He asks, who should my Bears pick up at number 9? The answer to that question to me, they should not do the obligatory the best player on the board thing? No. They have who they believe is a franchise quarterback in Justin Fields. They need to find him an offensive lineman, one that is the highest of value at number 9. They need as many of them. I don't care if they're young. They need as many offensive linemen as possible, and they now have to look for a running back, but I wouldn't suggest they do that in the first round. Offensive lineman. I wouldn't look for anything else. Not wide receiver, not tight end, not pass rusher, not defensive lineman, not linebacker, not secondary. No, offensive lineman. Straight up. That is what they need, and they need to look for that in the worst possible way. Ryan McCarthy says, look, if there's one city deserving NFL franchise, it definitely is St. Louis. It's a shame what the Bidwells and the Cronkies did to him, especially Stan Kroenke. At least Bidwell showed emotion, although, I wanted to sort of choke him a bit because I'm thinking to myself, yeah, you're in a city that would support your team, yet because you didn't get the stadium that you wanted, and you're coveting these other new stadiums that were being built at the time, that you just wanted to say, okay, we're going to leave for greener pastures, and you left for the greener pastures, and you still didn't get that stadium all the way until a little after the 2000s, and you weren't even the owner of the team then. But Stan basically saying, oh yeah, we're a member of the St. Louis community, and then all of a sudden he just bolts. Because all the while when you were saying, don't worry, St. Louis, we're you. We're part of you. We're part of the community. He's building out a stadium that's called SoFi now out in Inglewood. Foul. Victor agrees with me. He says, look, they need linemen badly. Yeah, that's why I say, Derek, offensive linemen. They need to focus there. And if they don't, then there's something wrong with the McCaskies. They need offensive line help, and Justin Fields needs to be protected at all costs. At all costs. Then hopefully they do heed what I just said, that they find an offensive lineman at number 9 in the first round. Now, from the Bears to the Giants and the Raiders, here is your next Dolt of the Week. Dolt of the Week is sponsored by nobody. The winners of this episode's Dolt of the Week are the Oakland, Los Angeles, Oakland, Las Vegas Raiders. And they are the Dolts of this week. All right, I'll put this aside for a second. To my mentality brother, Why Is That Jefe, who is a huge fan of the Giants. Now, why am I clapping? I'm clapping because the Giants made a move to help Daniel Jones, the quarterback of the team, who ended up having a 4-year, $160 million deal, $80 million guaranteed, to basically cement the fact that he is the future and franchise quarterback of the Giants. The Giants made a move to solidify having weapons with them. So enter Darren Waller, the tight end formerly of the Raiders, now of the Giants. Now, all of that is fine. And if the Raiders didn't see that Waller fit them and they wanted to go in another direction, cool. That's not a problem. The issue that I have is that for the 30-year-old tight end who, to me, in their division, I would only take one other tight end over him, and it's Travis Kelce. I mean, who else wouldn't want to take him? But easily the second best tight end in the division and one of the best tight ends in the league, I would dare say top 5. You trade him for a 3rd-round pick. Really? Waller, who is probably now your number 2, and before Devontae Adams got to the Raiders, your number 1 pass option, is only worth a 3rd-round draft pick. Really? 3rd round.
What?
3rd round. A 3rd-round draft pick. You're talking about one of the most athletic tight ends in NFL going today, and he could stretch the field. I'll give you an example. Just in the 2019 and 20 seasons, he almost caught 200 passes in those combined 2 seasons. Got you over 2,300 yards in the air, 12 touchdowns. And I don't understand why you want to move him. Now, you could say, well, he's been injured. Okay. That's fine. But when he's on the field, he is great. And I think he was on the mend. And I think he would have been a bigger player and a bigger presence for the Raiders if you were to hold steady, hold firm, and actually have him be a part of the Raiders. You just brought in a quarterback in Jimmy Garoppolo. So the only weapons he has to rely on is Hunter Renfrow and Josh Jacobs. Now, who thinks, out of everybody in the NFL, who thinks that with Hunter Renfrow and Josh Jacobs, that the Raiders can be a playoff contender? This is what happens when Josh McDaniels gets a hold of the team. When he was the head coach of the Broncos, he drafted Jim Tebow in the 1st round. And remind me, is he in the league now, Mr. Tebow?
No!
Did he play 5 years worth in the league?
No!
Yeah, that's what I thought. A 3rd rounder. That's all you can manage, Raiders? A 3rd rounder?
This whole thing stinks to high heaven.
Okay. You realize you need to bring assets on the. If you were going to do this with him, talking about with Waller and deal him away, have somebody in the wings at least. Don't just simply say, oh, okay, well, he's damaged goods, we're going to ship him. A 3rd rounder.
You for real?
Oh my gosh. Okay, all right. Let me bottom line this, because it just when I think about this, it just makes me more and more ill. Not for the Giants. Actually, I'm happy for them because they got a steal, in my opinion. They got a quality guy that's going to help out Daniel Jones right away. And they did not miss much. They did not give away the farm. They actually did wonderful. In fact, I would have an opposite type of segment where I would do an attaboy to the Giants because you fleeced the Raiders. But I'm angry at the Raiders because you allowed yourself to be fleeced. That is not what you're supposed to do. You don't supposed to just roll the red carpet and let people just wipe their feet with you. That's what the Giants did, and more power to them. I'm glad they did. Not because I hate the Raiders, no, but because you acted like simps and you got treated like simps. Darren Waller is a quality tight end. And for you to just say, we're done with them?
You've got to be joking me.
Shame on you. That's really all I got to say. Shame on you. You got a tough road to hoe, and I don't know if you're able to do it, but you're going to have to show me that you can, because so far, I think you can't. Now, from the Raiders to the NCAA tournament. Who is your pick? Who is ours? Well, you'll have to find that out on the other side. This is Cole Sports with a Z. Be right back.
This is a BS3 Network presentation.
I want to show that attainability. I want to show the accessibility of this kind of lifestyle.
From social media to having conversations with friends and family, you always have to put on face and save face.
What brings a smile to my face is the one person that totally believes in me, and that's my beautiful wife, Jody.
I just had to stop because I didn't value myself. I didn't love myself. And it's like, I have to learn to love myself.
Changing the world one conversation at a time. This is Revelations. Are you looking for something to do on your lunch break? Well, there's a show on the BS3 Network that has only 4 words to say to you. The Lunch Break with AJ, powered by JM&E. Live weekdays at noon Central.
Coming up on next week's Common Cole Sports, we'll get deeper into the NCAA March Madness or the NCAA tournament. We'll also, of course, have our joke of the week. We'll go in on something, and we'll, of course, address something via email. That is for next week. But for this one, we have, well, we'll talk about the NCAA tournament in a minute. But to the VIP zone we go back to, and Victor Locke says, and now Stupid University presents Dope of the Week. And along with that, he said with me that with Hunter Renfrow and Josh Jacobs with pieces alongside Jimmy Garoppolo, who believes that the Raiders would be Super Bowl contenders? Victor Locke says, nobody. He also says, that's someone I would have taken over. I would take over Zach Wilson for the Jets. Tim Tebow. However, I believe the Jets are going to get their hands on Mr. Ayahuasca, who still can't win playoff games in January. Yeah, I believe that too. Ryan says the Raiders got shown the door. I'll see myself out. And he alluded to Mr. Ayahuasca. He says, I think the Jets will be getting their hands on Mr. Psychedelic. Yeah, the fact that they're actively trying to woo him by signing Alan Lazard. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that the Jets are doing a full court press saying, yeah, you deserve to play in the Meadowlands. I wouldn't want them to punish themselves, but I think the Jets, sorry about this, Ryan McCarthy. No credentials acquired. Huge Jets fan. I'm sorry what I'm about to say, but your Jets organization and brass are cruising for a bruising. I don't think they'll be better off with Aaron Rodgers. Now, unless you're talking about getting more coverage, you'll win there. I'm not sure that you will get much further than what you got last year. That's my issue, and that's unfortunate. But from the gridiron to the hardwood, and not the professional one, because we'll have a lot of time to talk about that. Of course, we're approaching March Madness. That's right. We already had a couple of play-in games for a couple of games to be decided that took place yesterday. Tomorrow, tip-off time, noon Eastern, will begin the madness that is March Madness. And how will these number ones at least break down? That's where I will go in. Okay. You know, it's a wonderful time when we can talk about the NCAA men's and women's basketball weekend, but I'll focus on the men's. I probably will focus on the women's sometime later, but I definitely will focus on the men's right now. And you're seeing everybody and their mama breaking out the bracket pool, and we're being at work being asked, fill out your brackets, and even other things that are or bracketologyized, you know, like restaurants in the area or food in the area, you know, just everything, you know, what's your bracket? It's a beautiful thing. And it always happens around now, a little before St. Patrick's Day. Yes, I mean, I'm looking at places like Chicago who they're preparing for St. Patty's Day and they've already dyed the North River green. It normally happens around now, and it's an exciting time of the year. And I get swept up in the excitement too. So here's how I would look at it. We'll start with the East and Purdue, the number one seed there. Now, they win, but it don't seem impressive. You know, it's sort of like a but. And that's really the feeling that you get. You know, it's as if, you know, it's as if they go the way that Eddie goes. It's like, you know, if the big guy's doing well, the Boilermakers do well. If he doesn't, forget about it. And it might depend on how he's officiated. It might depend on how he plays. But they do have that, but, you know, they have these wonderful moments. You know, they won the tournament of the Big Ten. But even that is an indication. You know, they won it, yes, but they won over Penn State 67-65. They just squeaked it out. But I will always say this, and I'll always maintain this. If you beat an opponent by 1 point, you have done your job. That is all that matters. You beat your opponent by 1 point. And if you could do that, that is what matters. So Purdue did it enough to where they are one of the 4 seeds and they rule the East. Do I think they'll come out the East? I don't think so. But you never know. I'll be surprised. But I don't think they will. Then we go to the West. And there's Kansas. They have 17 quad 1 wins. They were the Big 12 regular season champs. You know, they seem to coast through everything. But the problem was the regular season finale against Texas and then the Big 12 championship against them. They looked lackluster in both games. So you have those things lingering. And then, oh, by the way, Bill Self, the head coach of the defending champs, is recuperating from heart surgery. So, I mean, all of this is weighing heavily, and we're talking about young men, ages 18 to 22. It's hard for grown men to deal with good, strong leadership not being there. You got these young men who need it, and it's not there. And he now has the cachet, talking about himself, of actually owning a ring. And it's like, look, my way works because I got you a chip. when you don't have that presence there, you could see the team go up and down, as we saw in as I said, the regular season finale and the conference championship against Texas, where they just simply wasn't up to snuff. Now they can have the "we'll do this for coach," even if he does get back to the bench, and he's slated to try to get back to the bench once play begins, but in the tournament. But if not, I could see them thinking, okay, we'll do this for Coach Self. And normally when you have many people who play outside of themselves and they play for a higher purpose and reason, then you see something else happen and take shape and take form, which is absolutely gorgeous and beautiful when you witness it. And maybe that's what needs to happen with this team to take, I guess, this part of the year seriously. And if they could do that, more than likely they will be in Houston come the Final Four weekend. And speaking of Houston, let's go to the Midwest tournament, where that is who is ruling the roost in the University of Houston. Now, they had the inside track to the number 1 overall seed. And obviously, if that was the case, it would have been the South where they would have been. But they did not come through. They lost their All-American Championship game against their rival Memphis. I should say the outgoing rival Memphis. Now that the U of H is going to go to the Big 12. And that opened the door for Alabama. So Houston, they've had their ups and downs in terms of dominance. You know, they'll have a streak and then all of a sudden there'll be an inexplicable loss, like the home loss to Temple. But then they'll coast and they'll look beautiful. They'll look powerful against teams like Cincinnati. And then again, the inexplicable loss, like the loss to Memphis in the championship game of the tournament. I think they will make it out of the Midwest. But I think now that is not the question they have to ask, although they should take their reach seriously. It is, can they win it all? And I think they have to focus on that. And they have the motivation of needing to avenge. And I'm so sorry, I'm doing this all wrong. They need to do this to avenge and to Alabama, and that is who is the number 1 overall seed, and they are the number 1 seed in the South. Everything looks good on paper. Everything looks good with the eye test. However, and it's a big but, there's a lot of controversy that swells and surrounds this team. Chiefly amongst it, Brandon Miller, and the team has had to deal with murder cases and crimes and other types of controversies like that. So it's been a real heavy duty year for the Crimson Tide. However, through all of that, they won the regular season in the Southeastern Conference, and then they coast and beat down Texas A&M in the championship to win the SEC championship tournament. So now they have those feathers in cap, and they now are the team to beat in the tournament. Now, do I think they're going to be the team that hoists the trophy come April the 3rd? No. I don't think they are. I actually think it will be the University of Houston. They'll do it. That will raise it all. And I personally think that out of all of the 4 number 1s, I think we'll see Alabama and Houston advance to Houston. I don't think Purdue will make it, and I don't think Kansas will make it. I think they both will be upended, probably by Sweet 16 time, which will be, of course, not this weekend, but the slate of games that begins the next weekend. The ones that tip-off starts March the 23rd. So am I excited for what I'm about to see? Yeah. I'm very excited. Do I think we're going to have something that is going to make a shining moment exist? Of course. We always will. That's the beauty of March Madness. We'll see a Cinderella, we'll see a good run, and we'll see an improbable run, and then we'll see the ones who are supposed to be there late in the year be the ones who will take center stage at the Elite Eight and the Final Four and the Elite Two stage. So, of course, I grew up in Houston, and I would love to see Houston get to the championship round for the first time in 39 years. It's about time they actually do make it back, and it'll be a great story if they do, and if they do succeed. It would also be a great story for Alabama, who they have not been known of having a powerhouse team, a powerhouse basketball team. They're known for a football team. They're known as a football factory. They don't rebuild, they reload there. So it would be an interesting story with them. Of course, the defending champs will have something to say about it. And Purdue, who has a good, rich history in basketball. Just look at the late Gene Katie. They will have something to say too. And of course, there's many other teams who caught fire. Duke is one of them that I can think off the top of my head. UT, Texas is another. Both of them won their respective conferences. Duke won the conference tournament of the ACC, and Texas won the Big 12. I think you're going to see those types of teams make hay, and I think you're going to see teams like Arizona and UCLA out in the Pacific 12. I think you're going to see them have a say in who's going to advance and who's not. But the bottom line, this is one of the most exciting times of the year. I don't want to say it is one of the most exciting times of the year. And it is the time of the year where you will see the biggest of casual fans become so enthralled in 2 hours of action. So whatever you do and however you do it, enjoy it because it is meant to be savored. And I hope your brackets go well, and I hope you do well. So cheers to you, those who are participating in the bracketology of the 2023 March Madness season. All right, to the VIP zone one last time before we call it a day. Victor says, I believe the Jets were like, hey, Aaron, remember Brett? We gave him his renaissance too. We're like the retirement home for Packer QBs. He probably did say that. That's the scary part, Victor. He also says, I just realized how bad that sounded. My sincerest apologies, Mr. McCoffey. Ryan, again, big-time Jets fan, he responds by saying, look, been hearing the New York Packers jokes all week, Victor. You wouldn't be the first or the last. Well, I'm not going to say that joke, but good Lord, it is starting to become apparent that they have a proclivity. I'll keep it G as a G rated. They have a proclivity for Packer QBs that are at the twilight of their careers. And yeah, the signing of Alan Lazard doesn't help them at all either. If you feel led to donate to this program, all you have to do is go to cash.app/$ host Cole Johnson. That's cash.app/$ host Cole Johnson. Well, that about does it. But this week of Cole Sports, I thank you for joining me. I am Cole Johnson. Thank you, the VIPs in the VIP zone. Thank you to BS3. Thank you for those who are downloading the show. Thank you for those who are watching it. And this is
Thank you for tuning in to Sportz. To download this episode, go to Spreaker and type Sportz with a Z. For apparel, go to Spring and type Sportz VIP Boutique. That's with a Z. To reach Cole Johnson, go to flowcode.com/page/host Cole Johnson. This has been a Comey Media Incorporated presentation.